There she blows, 3 fragile boats, 6 men each, and one enormous shadow rising from the deep. Your sweaty hands clench the harpoon. Your heart hammers against your ribs like a trapped animal. The plan is simple and absolutely insane. Row close enough to touch a monster. Inside these leviathans, the most valuable liquid on Earth, nearly 2,000 liters of pure milky gold. An enormous shadow bursts through the waves and comes crashing down toward the boat. You are risking your life for a liquid treasure worth $200,000.
She's breaking!
Whale oil, the Swiss Army knife of early industry. It lit cities, lubricated machines, and built empires. This is the story of how humanity hunted the ocean's greatest animals and nearly won. Trapped inside the largest animals to ever live, a fortune few men could resist chasing. Over 400 years, the hunt would spread to every ocean on Earth and change the world forever. Fishing villages became the richest towns in America. Blood money built the modern world.
She'll clear the breakwater by tide's turn.
But before the empire, there was the hunt. And before the hunt, there was a moment of terrible discovery. Nobody really knows how humans first got the idea of battling whales. Probably ancient coastal people stumbled upon whales stranded ashore, rare treasure chests of meat and bone. Their massive mouths hold hundreds of baleen plates, bristly keratin sieves, the plastic of their time. Shapeable into anything from baskets to corsets, stays to armor. Demand for it was insatiable.
Just so.
The moment a dark shape broke the surface, signal fires blazed and drums thundered across the coast. Their target, the North Atlantic right whale, 18 meters, 90 tons, gloriously slow, gloriously profitable. While most whales sink when they die, right whales float. The right whale to hunt, they said. When heated, the blubber rendered into precious whale oil, burning brighter and cleaner than anything else. By the 1740s, 15,000 London street lamps burned with colonial whale oil every single night. It took half a whale per night to keep London's dark streets alive with flickering light. The Basques turned whaling into a finely tuned enterprise, perfecting equipment, perfecting the kill. The secrets of whale hunting spread across European powers and deep into their colonies. Soon the English and Dutch launched their own fleets, hiring Basque consultants to learn every secret. Europe watched with envy, then Europe acted. The industry that fed cities was now feeding nations. Half of a whale's weight is blubber, a thick oily shield hiding the real prize inside. To refuse such fortune to chance, they paddled out and tried their luck, and it paid. Towards the 8th century, whaling turned commercial. The Basques built an empire from the sea. Other nations watched with envy, but the Basques had centuries of mastery that was about to be stolen. Life in colonial New England was as harsh as its winters and stony soil, but the Atlantic held fortune. Shore whaling became their first get-rich-quick scheme, and it worked when the whales cooperated. A single good-sized whale earned each crew member as much as a land worker made in 6 months. But it was unpredictable. Some years 100 whales, other years months of nothing but empty sea. Still, whaling became a valuable trade.
42,
London needed more oil than
and
the coast
7
could provide.
shillings.
London was swelling, 15,000 lamps burning. Demand was exploding faster than the whales could be found. The right whales near shore grew scarcer every year. And then, everything changed offshore Antarctic. A whaling boat swept far offshore. Hours dragged in uncertainty, then something enormous rose below them. An 18-meter, 45-ton sperm whale, in their heads nearly 2,000 liters of the purest oil on Earth. Spermaceti, milky gold, so pure it burned without a trace of smoke. The highest quality oil on the planet. A single large sperm whale could yield oil worth $200,000 today. The gold rush was on. One barrel could buy almost 3 acres of farmland. Outfitting the voyage cost $30,000. A third of voyagers lost money. Some never returned, but the dream of coming home rich was irresistible. The sperm whale became the ultimate prize, and it would transform the industry and America forever. Whaling was unusually diverse for its time, but diversity did not mean equality, not even close. Native Americans and black sailors made up much of the labor, pushed into the hardest, lowest-paying work. Fishing villages transformed into global commercial hubs. New Bedford rose as one of America's richest cities. The American dream, they said, but the real fortunes flowed upward to ship owners and merchants. The planks groan as your shipmates strain at their oars, rowing straight toward the beast. You recognize the creature from its scars, and it remembers you. The harpoon bites deep into blubber, and the whale turns into pure, terrified rage. The line screams out, the boat lurches forward like it's been hitched to a steam engine. Spray blinds you as you're dragged across the ocean in what whalers call a Nantucket sleigh run. It goes on for an hour, then 4. Your knuckles are white, and then pray and curse. The ropes lash across the deck like they're alive. Someone's leg gets caught. They are yanked into the ocean, swallowed by the waves. You hope it is quick. Sailors tell stories of other whales rushing to defend their kin, dragging men to depths where lungs crush. 8 hours in, the whale is finally slowing, exhausted from pulling your floating death trap across the ocean. Now comes the killing. You must get close enough to stab a 3-meter lance into lungs or heart. 15 blows later, you find the mark. Blood flows from the spout like a crimson geyser. The whale swims in tighter and tighter circles until it finally rolls over in a spreading pool of gore. And you're barely getting started. The real work begins now. You tow the enormous carcass back to the ship, where the real transformation begins. It takes days to process 45 tons of dead whale into liquid money. The work never stops. The ship creaks as the dead giant bobs and swells beside you. Now the butchery can begin. You leap across blood-slick blubber to axe through the massive head, searching for the spermaceti vault. Within the head lies the spermaceti chamber, the vault of the most precious whale oil on Earth. You peel away the blubber, 20 centimeters thick and tough as leather, in 2-meter-wide blanket pieces. A ton of blubber hauled up on pulleys that strain the ship's very masts, the whole vessel lurches. You fire up the try-works, brick furnaces on a wooden deck, the smoke so thick you can barely breathe. They say you can smell a whaling ship from 30 kilometers away. Burning fat and the stink of death. Sharks circle below, men slip on greasy decks, bones break, some are scalded by boiling oil. It may be one of the most gruesome jobs in existence. The stench, the blood, the endless toil. Most who signed on quickly regretted it. Nearly a third ended up deserting before voyage's end. The work continued around the clock. Days blurred into nights. The ship never stopped its gruesome labor. But when it was done, barrels of the finest oil on Earth. Liquid that would light cities and grease empires. You are holding on to the dream of coming home rich. The odds aren't great, but the barrels are full. And soon the hunt begins again and again. For months, for years, voyages that never seem to end. By the 1850s, whaling was America's fifth biggest industry. 700 ships, 70,000 workers. In 1853 alone, American whalers killed over 8,000 whales, nearly $500 million in today's money. Voyages grew longer, months turned into years, ships pushed into the Pacific and Indian Oceans. Each voyage
Capital
demanded
flows were
bigger investments.
sales.
Whaling became a venture capital industry, risk and reward on a massive scale. Crews worked for shares instead of wages, forced to buy overpriced supplies on credit. Many came home in debt. The real money flowed upward, always upward, to ship owners and merchants. The American dream as illusion. Native communities became dependent on English goods. Whaling's diversity masked deep structural exploitation. Crews of color were pushed into the hardest and lowest paying work. This pattern of inequality still echoes today. The blood of whales helped fuel the rise of American industrial power. The connection was absolute. Every building in New Bedford told the same story, every cobblestone, every church built on whale money. It's the American dream, they said. For some it was. For most, it felt like an illusion just out of reach. Until 1859, when a breakthrough changes everything. Steam-powered rigs start pumping petroleum from the earth. The age of sail was ending. The age of engine had begun, ushered in by more blood than ever before. Nantucket, once the heart of global whaling, saw its last ship limp home in 1870. An era had ended. Kerosene conquered lighting. Cheap and limitless. But whale oil found a new master, industrial machinery. Whale oil never freezes, never spoils, never quits. Machinery needs it. Petroleum increased demand for whale oil. Norwegians seized the opportunity. Explosive-tipped harpoons, steam-powered catcher boats, instant kills. The fast ships could chase down even blue whales, the largest animals that ever lived. No whale was safe. Air compressors pumped dead whales full of gas, so even the biggest ones floated like massive buoys. After World War II, Japan and the Soviet Union joined the slaughter. They called it the Whaling Olympics. The largest factory ship, 210 meters long, could process dozens of whales in a single day. In 1964, 82,000 whales reported killed, the largest animal slaughter by tons in human history. The ocean couldn't sustain this mechanized assault. The numbers tell a story of catastrophic collapse. Sperm whales fell from 1.5 million to 800,000. Fin whales from nearly 800,000 to just 100,000. Blue whales from 340,000 before industrial whaling to less than 5,000. A collapse of 98%. In the arms race before World War I, whale oil was also used to produce explosives. The hunt never stopped. Norwegian stations on islands at the edge of Antarctica processed thousands of whales every season. Hand-thrown spears were gone. Explosive-tipped harpoons fired from cannon. Industrial killing for an industrial age.
This is
The
protected
ocean that once held
waters!
millions, now nearly empty. The hunt had been almost
This
perfectly efficient.
isn't
The same
negotiation.
industrial might that once built tanks and
It's
bombers
repair.
now built factory ships. And the slaughter continued. In 1975, environmental activists steered tiny inflatables straight between Soviet ships and their targets. Fragile human bodies standing in the path of steel harpoons. The images spread like wildfire across the world. Overnight, the public turned against the commercial slaughter. A new cause was born: save the whales. Across America and Europe, people rallied to a cause that felt both urgent and within reach. Finally, the International Whaling Commission voted for a global moratorium on commercial whaling. Only Norway, Iceland, and Japan never signed. But the 1986 global ban essentially ended 4 centuries of industrial hunting. 1986. The global moratorium takes effect. 400 years of industrial whale hunting essentially over. Looking back, the story of whaling seems bloody and barbaric, and it was all of it was. But it also lit homes, powered machines, and built the scaffolding of modernity. The truth is both things. Blue whale populations from less than 5,000 are slowly recovering. The ocean heals if we let it. A staggering and concerning display of what humanity is capable of, the power to reshape the world itself. Progress and destruction, always side by side, always paying each other's bills, always leaving the same mess. The question the ocean leaves us with: what are we willing to stop? What price is too high to pay?
This is not the end.
300,000 sperm whales alone were slaughtered in 2 centuries. The ocean still carries that loss. 400 years of hunting, from stone watchtowers and hand-thrown spears to 210-meter factory ships. Humanity hunted the ocean's greatest animals to the edge of silence, and then at the very last moment, a different kind of human nature asserted itself, and it was enough, barely, but enough. The largest animals to ever live, still here, still swimming, against every odd that history stacked against them. The ocean is vast enough to hide what we've done, but not vast enough to undo it, not without help. Progress and destruction always side by side. The story isn't over, it never really is. From the first Basque boat to the last harpoon cannon, humanity's relationship with whales has always been a mirror. What we saw in the whale was fortune. What the whale saw in us, we can only imagine. The ocean keeps its own record. In every scar on every whale, the history of what we chose. 400 years of hunting, the recovery may take just as long, if the ocean gets the chance. This has been the story of whale oil, and of what humanity is capable of in both directions. Subscribe if you want more stories from the deep places of history. The link is in the description. Thank you for watching.